Welcome to the wonderful world of kombucha. Before we get into how to make it, let's break down exactly what kombucha is. In a nutshell, kombucha is fermented sweet tea. Fermentation is the chemical breakdown of a substance by microorganisms. Microorganisms are living things that are too small to see with the human eye. Some can be harmful, like germs or viruses, but many are beneficial and are a natural part of our makeup. Did you know our bodies contain more microorganism cells than human cells? Having a diverse microscopic ecosystem within your digestive system is linked to widespread health benefits and is even thought to reduce the risk of cancer. We love the little living world within us and want to keep it flourishing by consuming probiotic or living food and beverages. When we ferment something, we provide a little colony of microorganisms with something we want them to convert into something else. With kombucha, we are taking a little colony and having them convert sweet tea into a fizzy, slightly tangy drink. The colony, or culture, for kombucha has multiple organisms, including at least one type of bacteria and one type of yeast. The culture is called a SCOBY, or a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. The SCOBY is like a living, gelatinous frisbee that eats the sugar in sweet tea and slowly turns it into vinegar and carbon dioxide, which makes the drink tangy and fizzy. As it eats, the colony grows in size, and you will end up with multiple living gelatinous frisbees. If you have a friend who makes kombucha, they are more than likely to want to share a baby SCOBY from their culture. If you don't know anyone, you can buy a SCOBY online. To make 1 gallon of kombucha, you'll need 14 cups of sweet tea, 2 cups of starter liquid, which is just unflavored kombucha that will usually come with your SCOBY, and your SCOBY. To make 14 cups of sweet tea, I fill up a pot with 14 cups of water. Best practice is to use filtered water. While the water heats up, let's get our tea ready. Using tea bags can be convenient, but you can save money and reduce waste by investing in a reusable tea strainer and buying loose leaf tea. I buy my tea in bulk and keep it in a glass jar in a dark closet. Black tea is thought to be best for producing a thriving culture, but you can experiment with different types once your culture is established. Do some research, as not all teas are well suited for kombucha. I use oolong tea and love the results. For this amount, we will add 1 cup of sugar. I also buy my sugar in bulk and keep it in a 5-gallon bucket in my pantry. 195 degrees Fahrenheit is the recommended temperature to steep oolong tea, but other types require different temperatures, so check online or on the package for your specific tea. I know it's getting near 195 when I hear the water making some noise or hissing. You can get a thermometer for a decent price to know for sure, but this isn't necessary. Once we're at the right temperature, we'll turn the heat off and put our tea bags or strainer in. The length of time you let the tea steep in the water is up to you and how strong you want it to be. My very unscientific method is to wait until the hot burner light turns off, which ends up being about 20 to 30 minutes. While the freshly brewed tea is still warm, pour in the cup of sugar and stir until it is fully dissolved. Now cover it back up and let it cool down enough so we don't burn the little friends living in our SCOBY. You can also make half a gallon of concentrated sweet tea, then add cool water to reduce the waiting time, but I usually make the gallon of sweet tea in the morning, and by the time I get back around to it, it's cool enough to move on to the next step. For the first ferment, we add the 2 cups of starter liquid, which is full of the same microorganisms as the SCOBY, followed by the 14 cups of sweet tea, then add the SCOBY mother herself. She needs to breathe at this point, but we don't want dust or debris getting in, so we'll cover her with some cheesecloth or a thin, clean towel. A large rubber band or some twine will keep the cover in place. Now she goes into a dark closet and works her magic for approximately 1 week. After resting for 1 week, you'll have 1 gallon of unflavored kombucha. Congrats! Your SCOBY also likely made a friend. You can stop here and drink the kombucha as is if you so choose. But in my opinion, the real fun is in the second fermentation. In this step, you add different juices or flavorings, then close the bottle tightly so the gases produced during the fermentation process get trapped and make a natural carbonation or fizziness. We'll put our SCOBY to the side for now. Today, I'll be making 4 flavors of kombucha. I'll use store-bought juice to make mango guava, peach, and pineapple. Then, I'll use a clementine to show you how you can use any fresh fruit you have on hand. For one 16-ounce bottle, I add about 1/3 cup of juice. You can mix different flavors to find your favorite combination. Mango guava is the most commonly requested flavor I make. Using store-bought juice is the fastest and most convenient option for me, so I always have a few cartons and bottles in the pantry. However, I would definitely recommend trying fresh fruit when you're able. The flavor is significantly better, and I find that it produces a more active or fizzy drink. I've also found that different flavors contribute to the fizziness of the resulting drink, with fresh pineapple and mango creating so much gas and carbonation inside the bottles that it can create too much pressure and shoot out like a geyser when you open it. If you're worried about it being too fizzy, you can pop the tops of each bottle every day, a process called burping the bottles, to release some gas that's built up. To use fresh fruit, I just put pieces in a bowl and mash it up with what I think was intended to be a meat tenderizer, but I've always used it for this purpose. A potato masher would also be a good tool to squeeze the juice out. You don't have to juice your fruit either. You can put whole pieces of fruit in the bottle. If you go this route, however, you might struggle to get the fruit back out, especially if it soaks up liquid and expands. Now that each bottle has 1/3 cup juice, I'll fill it up the rest of the way with the unflavored kombucha that has gone through its first ferment. We have 16 cups in this gallon jar, and we will save 2 cups to use as starter liquid for next week's batch, which means we will have 14 cups remaining to put in these bottles. Each bottle takes about 2 cups, so I end up making 7 bottles of kombucha. This is enough for me and my husband to share throughout the week, but I can easily double everything and make 14 bottles of kombucha every week. The type of bottle you use will also impact how fizzy your drink will be. The tighter the seal, the less carbon dioxide will escape, resulting in a fizzier drink. These swing top bottles in the front have the best seal and make the fizziest kombucha, but I also use some twist top bottles and close the lid tightly. I've bought bottles for this purpose and have reused some bottles from store-bought kombucha. We're left with just about 2 cups of unflavored kombucha, or starter, left. This is a good time to rinse out the jar you're brewing the kombucha in. But it's best to avoid using antibacterial soap, as the residue would also harm our desired bacteria. After I close the lids tightly, I wipe down the sides with a damp paper towel to avoid any sticky bottles. I use masking tape and pen to keep track of flavors and the day they began their second fermentation. The length of the second fermentation is up to your preference. As it continues to ferment, the bacteria and yeast will eat more of the sugar in the juice and produce acetic acid that makes the drink tart. Temperature affects how quickly fermentation happens, with faster results in warmer environments. I make kombucha every Wednesday and start enjoying it that weekend. I've also drank kombucha that sat for a couple weeks, and it was fine, just more sour. If you let it continue to ferment, eventually it will turn into a vinegar. But a word of caution, if you're trying to make kombucha vinegar, don't leave it in a tight sealing bottle and put it in the back of a closet. If you don't continue to pop the lid and burp it, the gases inside can build up and cause a horribly sticky explosion. Unfortunately, I speak from experience. I'll show you 2 different batches with varying levels of fizziness. This one had almost no fizziness. This bottle was from when I was just restarting my kombucha colony after taking a hiatus, so I think the bacteria and yeast populations were not as healthy and active, which resulted in less carbonation. After a few weeks of providing the SCOBY with a new source of food weekly, it seemed to bounce back and make fizzier drinks again. Even though this bottle didn't have much carbonation, you can tell the microorganisms are working because they created another little SCOBY. You can drink it, but the texture is a little weird to me, so I usually just compost it. On the other side of the spectrum, here is the uncorking of an overly lively bottle. This was from a more established culture, and also used pineapple juice, which tends to fizz up more. If we anticipate a geyser, we'll often open it outside preemptively. A lot of the kombucha making process is just trial and error and finding out what works for you. I hope this video has given you the confidence to try making your own. Thanks for watching.